Grey's Pass is approximately 157 years old and was designed and built by Thomas Paine in 1857 using between 100 and 220 convict labourers. The road has been fully deproclaimed, which means ownership and maintenance has been reverted to the current landowners. This lovely old pass is unfortunately not publicly accessible except with certain permissions. On the northern end it can be accessed via the gravel road close to the entrance to the historic Modderfontein farm off the N7. The middle section is shared commonly with the Pekkineskloof Pass, whilst the southern section lies to the west of the N7 and descends down to the valley floor over private farmland. Today the pass traverses the property of 3 private landowners as well as state land on the plateau where the old pass has been obliterated by the N7. We filmed this pass from north to south and started off with a visit to the historic farm Modderfontein, which has history dating back to 1725. In 1660, Jan van Riebeeck dispatched a scouting party under the leadership of Jan Dankaart to explore a route to the north from the Cape to find the kingdom of Monamatapa. Local bushmen showed them a route through the mountains, which included a section of the Modderfontein farm. They saw a large river there with a herd of over 300 elephants and promptly named the river die Olifantsrivier. The route they followed was originally named Grote Kloof and became the only route followed by subsequent explorers and pioneers into the northern areas. In 1725, Modderfontein became the first farm established in the Olifants River Valley by the Dutch East India Company. The farm was granted to Jurgen Hanekom, who built a kraal with a modest house and started farming cattle to supply the VOC with meat. By 1757, the main homestead had been built, and a stroll through the old house, which is today the restaurant, reveals the original style of construction, with stone walls almost half a metre thick, high timber ceilings and low door frames, a sure sign of the population having been much shorter at that time. The old route, before the construction of Grey's Pass through the mountains, was so steep and treacherous that it was notoriously named the Breakneck Pass and had been in use since 1660. By 1855, Thomas Paine commenced construction of the 12-kilometre-long Grey's Pass, making extensive use of convict labour, a practice brought to South Africa by Sir John Montagu, a staunch Anglican disciplinarian who favoured the principle of utilising idle convicts to repay their debt to society in the form of hard labour. The small thatched cottage in Camera here is Paine's original house and can still be rented today as a guest cottage. It took Paine only 2 years to complete the pass, whilst the post office and postmaster's house were constructed at Modderfontein at the northern end of the pass. 5 years later, the farm changed ownership to John McGregor, who had arrived in the area as an itinerant trader in 1856. The farm remained in the family for 140 years, whilst McGregor added a shop and trading store to the existing buildings. From 1860 to 1918, an inn for travellers was added, and the first doctor arrived to set up a practice at the farm. Soon a blacksmith and wheelwright added their talents to the bustling settlement, and the authorities deemed it necessary to post a policeman there too, with one of the buildings being converted into a makeshift jail. By this stage, McGregor had become the wealthiest person in the valley. He died in 1912 and was buried in the farm cemetery. Both of McGregor's sons died in 1918 from the Spanish flu, leaving only daughters on the farm. This part of Grey's Pass is located on the Pekkineskloof Lodge grounds, and permission also needs to be obtained to drive it. Once you rejoin the tarmac on the N7, you have approximately 1.1 kilometers to drive in a southerly direction, where you will find the access point to the southern section of Grey's Pass. Let's backtrack to 1858, when the new Thomas Paine built pass was first opened to the public. The old Breakneck Pass was happily consigned to the history books as one of South Africa's most dangerous passes. It's recorded that this pass was so severe that wagons had to be disassembled and carted up the mountain piece by piece, then reassembled again on the other side. Travel in those days was extremely arduous and time-consuming. Paine's new pass changed lives dramatically, and the wagon crossing time was vastly reduced, much to the delight of all who used the new road. In those days, Thomas Paine was already something of a legend. It was quite common for him to be working on 2 or more passes simultaneously, managing the projects by travelling between current jobs on horseback, and he was always completely self-sufficient and able to live off the land. At one stage he was working on the Pakes Pass outside Clanwilliam as well as the Trado Pass near Swellendam. Nearly all Bain's projects were completed under budget. The old pass carried traffic for just over 100 years, a remarkable testimony to the quality of his work. Work on the modern Picanescloof Pass actually started in 1939 but was stopped due to the outbreak of World War II. Work commenced again only in the mid-1950s. Like the northern section, this southern part of Grays Pass closely follows the line of the new Picanescloof Pass. It says a lot for Thomas Bain's skill for designing a good pass. The descent continues at a very steady gradient, heading southeast and traverses the farmstead near its base. Once through the farmstead, the road intersects with the R365 about 2 kilometers further. To get back onto the N7, turn left and continue for 1 kilometer.